Hello, good evening. It's a Friday and time for Business Live. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji Riafe. Tonight in Business Live, President Mahama instructs shipping companies to halt the implementation of the new terminal handling charges, saying it has no legal backing. The auditing firm putting together the list of verified creditors and recipient banks, PwC, has promised to release the final list next week. And the Ghana Stock Exchange says the listing of other three companies could help restore market confidence in the stock exchange. These are the headlines. You can always get interactive with us by tweeting your comments, suggestions at Joy Business GH, that's our handle, and on Facebook we are on Joy Business. For more business news, log on to myjoyonline.com. Now, before we bring you the details, Francis has joined me here with some developments on at the EC office.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Emmanuel Abuaji Riafe, because we know today that the nomination forms for many of the candidates, 275 seats are for grab in Parliament.
Okay.
Many are filing their forms today. Also, for the presidential hopefuls, we know that they have been trooping to the EC headquarters today to file their nomination forms. Let's bring you a quick update of what's been happening across the country on nomination deadline. Let's begin from the EC headquarters, where Joseph Akabule is standing by with an update. Joseph, it's 5 o'clock. The EC has stopped taking new forms. Give us an update on what's been happening in the last hour.
Well, so Francis, within the last hour, we've seen Jacob Osei Yeboah. He is an independent candidate, present his form to the commission. We've also seen Kwame Siedu work, another independent candidate, also successfully presenting his form to the commission. And the last candidate who just presented his form is a name that is an old but very familiar to many, Thomas Nyakuwadu of the Democratic People's Party. Now, he came in first without his nomination form, and he mentioned that was about 15 minutes to 5 p.m. and he mentioned that his form was with the Commissioner of Oath. They had to stamp some of the documents, and that in some few minutes' time, the documents will be brought in. Just about a minute to 5 p.m., a nephew of his came in with a nomination form and the electoral commission. As I speak to you now, they finished signing everything, and just in some few minutes' time, the electoral commission bringing the entire process to an end.
So for the last individuals who came through a minute to 5 and 15 to 5, have they been able to file their nomination forms?
Just when I stepped out to speak to you, the form had been accepted and they had finished signing it, and he was just about exiting the conference room.
So that brings the tally to what number now, Joseph?
So for day 1 and day 2, we have 17 presidential candidates so far. Just 9 of them filed on day 1 and the remaining filed on day 2.
All right. Thank you, Joseph Akabule, for the updates now as we're getting from the
centers to pick the forms. So I can say at least about 4 candidates came to where are the EC office to pick the forms. And
Kwesi, are you with us?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Continue.
Yeah, and I chanced on an independent parliamentary candidate for the Ishaesu constituency. That's David Osesam. So far, he's the only independent candidate I've supported. And he used to be with the ruling NDC before defecting to the MPP. And he campaigned for Nanado and MPP in the 2012 elections. And he says it's about time the electors vote for the independent candidates. As he puts it that the parliament has now become a rubber stamp for the parties. As he says that they do the bidding of the political parties and not the bidding of the people who voted them into power. So he's urging the electors to vote for the independent candidates. It's the independent candidates who can do the bidding for them to ensure development in their areas.
All right, thank you, Chrisidera, for that update from the Ashanti region. So clearly, many have come through in the last hour to file their nomination forms across the country. We'll bring you a comprehensive wrap of that on our Prime News Bulletin at 7 p.m. with Araba Kumsin. But let me revert now to Emmanuel Abuaji. We are for who is continuing with Business Live. Thank you, Emmanuel, for the update.
Right. Thank you very much. Francis Aban with the update from the EC office in Accra and Kumasi. Now continuing with Business Live, President Mahama has instructed shipping companies to halt the implementation of the terminal handling charges, saying it has no legal backing and need not to be imposed on Ghanaian shippers. Key business associations recently insisted some shipping lines were still charging the illegal charges, even though the transport minister had earlier called for a halt. President Mahama gave a strong signal to the shipping lines when speaking at a ceremony to mark the first anniversary of the National Single Window Project. Ebenezer Sabuti was there.
The single window system commenced last year to harmonize operations at the ports. President Mahama said the implementation of the single window policy has increased revenue generation of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority by 14.8%.
Revenue collection become more efficient with a 14.8% increase in collections over the period. These are successes that we must encourage and replicate in other sectors of the economy.
On the new terminal handling charges, the president said there is no legal base for the charge, hence must stop as directed by the Minister of Transport earlier.
There's been concern about the numerous fees and levies charged at our ports of entry, and that is why I take the complaints of the Association of Ghana Industries very seriously. I'm advised that there's no legal basis, absolutely no legal basis for the terminal handling charges that are currently being leveled. And the Honorable Minister of Transport has written expressly to stop this charge. This must be implemented immediately.
Key business associations have been calling on the government to reduce cost of doing business at the ports, which they said has been a hindrance on their business.
Now, the official liquidator of the defunct microfinance company DKM Diamond has emphasized the need for a rigorous process to verify claims so far submitted by the company's customers for refund. The auditing firm putting together the list of verified creditors and recipient banks has promised to release the final list next week. Payment of funds is then expected to start from the second week of October. There's more in this report.
The auditors, PricewaterhouseCoopers, are expected to announce the outcome of the exercise for validating customers and the modalities for the refund. The Registrar General's Department, which is the official liquidator, has so far met affected clients in Bolga, Wa and Sunyane as part of the liquidation process. Jimaima Oware has been outlining the details of the initial audit to Joy Business.
We had about 63,000 depositors and we had about 93,000 claims. I'm talking of 63,000 individual, creditors put that we can, that's human beings, but the claims were about 93,000. What I mean is some creditors had different types of schemes. Some had investment schemes, some had susu, some had different schemes, and that's what came to the 93,000. And also you realize that Bank of Ghana conducted an audit before we came on board. Before they were, this company was asked to be liquidated, and the value of the claims or the credit that we had to pay out was about 120 million. But when we did ours, we had a claim of about 540 million Ghana cedis, and that is huge. So we suspect that there's either bloating or people have put in fraudulent claims, and so that's why there's a need for verification.
The company's depositors are expected to receive refund of their invested funds from Monday. So what should they know?
We'll have the list of verified creditors. We'll have that list in the places where they submitted their claims for them to go check and find out where they'll be paid. Because we've identified Ghana Commercial Bank for now. We mentioned Fidelity and ADB. We are still in negotiations with them, but definitely Ghana Commercial Bank is set to roll out to help us to pay verified creditors. My insistence is on verified, because we've discovered through the various meetings that some creditors are not on the server, and yet they have slips. Yes, and so we have to verify how they had slips, showing that they've deposited monies with DKM, and yet they are not in the server.
DKM Diamond Microfinance is reported to have diverted 77.2 million Ghana cedis of its customers' deposits to run its subsidiary companies, including DKM Airline Company and DKM Mining Company, among others.
The Ghana Stock Exchange says the listing of Access Bank and other 3 companies could help restore market confidence. Access Bank has secured the necessary regulatory approval to list part of the business possibly before the end of the year. The bank is looking at raising about $26 million through the initial public offering. Deputy Managing Director of the exchange, Eko Afeji, said this, together with other developments, could turn things around.
On the alternative market, we do have 2 companies that will be preparing for some time. We are hoping they'll complete their documentation so that it can come. On the main market, there has been one on in the pipeline for some time. We're also hoping that it will come. Maybe 2 or 3 before the end of the year. We're expecting that as the macroeconomic environment improves, we're going to get more interest in the market. Because the key thing is that companies need equity. Debt can make you highly leveraged, and it can also, especially when you look at a high interest rate regime, where you're talking about 25% or more, it's so difficult for companies to be paying those kind of huge interest rates. So sometimes it's better to make sure you have a good balance between equity and debt in your books.
Access Bank is currently engaging investors to ensure it is able to raise the targeted amount. The Ghana Stock Exchange has from January to date seen investors' returns go down by some 12%. Moving on in business life, some economists say the IMF's verdict on the economy is actually the true situation on the ground. The fund, in its latest report on Ghana, after releasing the some $116 million, said current challenges facing the economy are far from over. Government, on the other hand, have argued a lot has been done which turns around the economy. But economist Kwabena Esilfia J disagrees.
You see, read it carefully. The major point being made is that progress has been made towards regaining macroeconomic in the respect of the budget. To put it simply, the budget deficit going down, and they are projecting that we might have surplus next year. Of all the macroeconomic indicators, the fiscal balance might be the most important one as far as the government is concerned, because it can exercise some control over expenditure. So if the fiscal consolidation that is the centerpiece of the facility is being implemented, and we have this result so far, then I think we ought to be saying that there's been some progress made. But they are quick to add that there are challenges, there are fiscal or financial risks. So as I said at the outset, I'm not surprised by the balance in the release.
But do you think that it's more of a question, let's take our time, let's fast track the process, and let us maybe stop thinking that we have arrived, because we still have some long way to go?
Yes, but you see, there are a number of elements in the facility. As I was just saying, the one that is highlighted here is the progress made towards regaining macro stability with respect to the budget deficit. In other respects, the state that we haven't made as much progress. So we need to start concentrating on those.
Governments of oil-producing countries in Africa have been urged to take urgent steps to address challenges faced by foreign investors in the oil and gas sector. This according to the Legal Counsel for the African Development Bank's Legal Support Facility in Chimunya Ndulo is critical in reversing what is deemed a waning appetite in the area of foreign investments in the sector, especially for African countries like Ghana. Speaking with Joy Business, Mr. Ndulo said this can be reversed if legislative instruments governing the sector are adhered to the benefit of both oil-rich countries and investors.
Due to the low costs, the low returns, and the high costs involved in exploration and development of oil production, that there is a lot of appetite amongst foreign investors in engaging in the sector across Africa. And I think different regions within the continent are probably affected differently. The emerging markets are affected in the sense that there's, because of the high risk involved, when you have such low returns, investors are less willing to engage in those areas. Also places where, in a lot of those areas, in those regions, emerging markets, there's also issues of the infrastructure in place that was required to bring oil to like commercial use. So you're finding that the exploration that's going on at this stage is in the more established markets because it's less risky, at least till this point. And and I think as somebody also mentioned that some African countries are somewhat benefiting from the low prices because of those who are importing, but I think the focus of the conversation was on the exporting countries, like what's going on and how are they impacted?
Can we turn it around, and what can we do to turn that around for the appetite to be boosted a bit?
I think we had mentioned that there are it's important to look into how we addressing some of the investment concerns by the investors, and at the same time striking a balance with the government's interests and getting the best out of the deals for what's best for the country. So I think it's somehow trying to strike a balance, and we also discussed the review of some of the legislation, and there's some issues that are necessary to be reviewed, but I think again it's important to safeguard the interests of the country and the people who ultimately the petroleum belongs to.
It's been a great pleasure indeed having you on board Business Live for the whole week, Monday to Friday, and I hope you did enjoy our packages, and do join us again on Monday for more interesting developments in the world of business. My name is Emmanuel Boaji Riafe. Meantime, you can get interactive with us by tweeting at Joy Business GH is our handle, and on Facebook we are on Joy Business. For more business news, log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Good evening, and up next, the ballot box coming to you right from the northern region.